Hello, everyone. Thank you so much again for watching the absolutely lovely Shithouse. And we have a treat for you. We have the filmmaker, Cooper Raiff, with us to do a Q&A. So I'm just going to jump into it. What inspired the film?
Great question. My freshman year of college, but also just like my feelings throughout college and what college like meant for me personally, and just I found college to be like the first time where I was without a safety net of sorts. And so I think that's like where everything came from. But also it was based on my relationship with this girl named Madeline, who in the movie is Maggie. And so those two things, I think.
Nice. More of a fun question. Similar to the film question, what inspired the stuffed animal, the telepathic stuffed animal?
That's a great question too. I wanted to, I don't know, I wanted to have, there's Alex's character is missing someone in there. I also don't, has everyone seen the movie who's watching this? Yeah. Probably? Yes. So I wanted some way for the dad to be in the movie. And I kind of always saw the stuffed animal as like his conversations that he's having with his dad, who's kind of like with him or watching over him or whatever. And also it was a great device to use like plot wise and like moving the story forward. And also just like a way for us to hear what's going on in Alex's head, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a conversation with himself. But yeah, I don't know where that came from. I had the idea because I was like, I don't know how to tell the audience this through like, I'm not going to do voiceover. So I just like kind of, the stuffed animal just came out of that, I think.
I thought it was a fantastic device. I'm very into the stuffed animal. And then my next question is, so there are lots of different conversations Alex has with Maggie as they're walking. I wanted to know if like all of those were scripted, were some of those actual stories from both of you, like them telling stories of their lives, I guess, outside of space.
Yeah, none of it was improvised just because we didn't have any time. Like we were so tight on shooting, and but that said, I'm never precious about like what I write. So like, and also Dylan, who's an amazing actress, probably didn't memorize her line. And same for me, I didn't like memorize my lines fully, so they felt very. But I also like write a bunch of likes and ums and stuff. So it wasn't improvised, but I had a lot of conversations with Dylan before the movie, and I tried to incorporate as much as I could of her, not her personal life. She didn't like disclose any like family stuff with me. So like that was all written about the character Maggie, but Dylan has like a similar, not just energy, but similar background to the character. And like, I remember there was one point where she's talking about her family, and there was like one word that I had written in the script that she was like, this doesn't feel like the right word. I want to change it to this word. And I was like, of course. And I think it actually helped the movie a ton because it felt so, just that one word. It was like what I think on the script, it was dud. And then she changed it to loser. And it just like little things like that just make it so much more, she can just like get behind it so much. And it just feels like, I think so many people have said, it feels like, did you guys write the script or was it just you guys talking? But it was written, but I think we just both brought a lot to it outside of the script.
I agree. It definitely felt very like I was literally just watching an actual conversation happen.
Right.
One of the more fun scenes for me is watching Sam kind of crash and burn at open mic.
Yes, yeah. Everyone loves that scene.
And that's kind of like also like a sort of turning point. Sam starts to be a bit nicer to Alex after that moment. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about Sam's character. Was this based on someone? What were you trying to do with Sam essentially?
With Sam, like I always say, he's like the embodiment of Shithouse to me. And also, but I mean, a lot of people think that Alex was like solely based on me, but like, I mean, that character is as much me as any of the other characters, honestly, just because I think like this movie kind of came out of my freshman year. I was the one turning off my brain. I was more like Sam. I was drinking a lot. I was partying a lot. And I think Alex was like kind of me envisioning what would happen if I didn't have all those walls up, and just was like experiencing college for what it was and just like the pain of leaving home and growing up. Whereas like Sam is kind of just like not necessarily writing his own rules. Like he's kind of like, what's going on here? And he's just an alcoholic also. And so I think I really wanted to show what it's like to be in a small space with someone for so long, because there's no not hating each other, but there's also no not getting close to each other. So like I really like, I think some people are like, I don't know if they should be friends by the end. I was like, no, there's no way they're not going to be friends by the end, because they've just, and that to speak on what you were saying, the stand-up was like the first moment where he kind of really did crash and like felt vulnerable all day. And so he like gets back and he's just like bleeding in the middle of the street basically. And I come in also the same way. And I think that's when we're both at our most vulnerable, we kind of like come together. But yeah, that wasn't really based on any roommate that I've had. I guess every relationship that I've ever had with any guy ever has always felt like strained in the way that relationship is. But yeah, I mean, he's just as much me as Alex is, really.
I really like Sam's character. He also has one of my favorite lines, which is the, so you sent 8 flags that weren't red enough.
Yeah, like, yes, yeah. He's also just a really, really, really funny guy. And that Logan Miller, who played him, is just a hilarious actor.
In terms of casting, so we've already spoken about the great performances from Logan and from Dylan. How did you cast the film? How did you find the actors for your film?
Actually through Instagram, I DM'd both of them. I knew the girl who plays Georgia in the first party, the Spin the Bottle girl. Her name's Abby Quinn, and I met her through somebody else, and she was going to be in the movie. And then she knew Dylan somewhat, not really. Like I think she just followed her on Instagram, and they auditioned for similar things. So I had an idea. So also Abby was going to play Maggie, and so Dylan was going to play her sister. And we had asked her through Instagram, hey, will you come in just for a day to shoot like sister scenes? And she said yes, because it was like not that much big of an ask, and she liked the script. And then Abby got really busy. She got a TV show and she had to shoot that. So I had to find a Maggie really fast. And I ended up just thinking Dylan, the sister, is very similar to Maggie, and like almost more so. And I was a little scared of asking her because she is such a force of nature. But there was just something very interesting, I think, about us sitting in silence because we're just so polar opposite. But I messaged her on Instagram, and then I had a phone call to ask her to play the main role. And then for Logan, I think Dylan followed him on Instagram and he followed her on Instagram. So I was like, hey, I'm in love with this guy. Seems like you're friends with him. And she's like, I've actually never met him. We just follow each other. But we both like Instagram messaged him together. And we're like, will you be in this movie? And he said yes. And it was only just like, he actually filmed for like 2 days. So it wasn't that huge of an ask, but it was like, we were so lucky and thankful that he did it.
It's fantastic. That's so cool.
Yeah. Social media.
Social media. That is actually one question. So there is the part where the red flags element. So like the social media aspects of the film. So I wanted to go into did you want more social media? Was that as much social media that you wanted to engage? The liking, the rules, the unwritten rules of social media were kind of like talked about within the film. So I wanted to know if were you planning to use social media as a way to tell a part of the story initially? Was that always part of the story? Because there's a part where he's essentially liking her things.
Right.
And the moment where at the end, well, not the actual end, but like where she likes his and he realizes that they're okay now.
Yeah. I think that I didn't go into it wanting to use social media because it sometimes I think plays hard on screen, but there was something, I just do that a lot. Like I just joined Instagram like 2 years ago, and I have this weird way of, it's also just text messages. Like I think what it was is I would have texted her, but I didn't get her number. So I was like, oh, he didn't get her number. So how is he going to reach out to her? And the first thing I thought of was Instagram. And there's like something super bizarre about like messaging someone and they have to like accept your messages, you know, and also just seeing the notifications pop up. Like there's also another thing that I've experienced recently where I think people will like a bunch of photos just to make sure that they see it. And I think that was part of it also, to like make sure she sees that, hey, I'm trying to reach out to you. And then at some point it just gets like so crazy. There was also, he's getting high. So he's like almost just forgetting any kind of rules. He's just messaging her. And I know to some people, like the one time I watched it in a theater with people, they just had the craziest reaction. And I didn't know that they would. Like, I really thought, oh, they would know that Alex is like that. But when I started messaging and when I started liking photos, the whole crowd is like, what the hell are you doing? But it didn't seem like it felt like that was just what Alex was going to do. There wasn't any like, oh my gosh, should I put this in there? It was like, no, that's what he's going to do. It's
funny because like that was kind of my reaction when I saw it. The first time I watched it, I was just like, oh no, please baby, don't do it, don't do it. But it was, I mean, it did feel very true to the character though, to like, just like trying to get the attention and have a friend.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Speaking about the character, one of the things I like about the ending that it's kind of a happy, hopeful ending. Were you always going to have the two of them end up together?
No, I mean, definitely not. But it never felt right to not have them end up together. Because the thing is that they're just saying they're going to date. Like they're not saying they're going to live happily ever after together. But yeah, I'd also just, when I was writing it, I had a lot of friends who had just graduated college, and there's this weird phenomenon. I don't know if you've witnessed this or anyone watching has, but there's this weird thing where people graduating will do this thing where they'll start dating someone who still goes to the college as a way of like, not holding on, but just like, it's so scary to graduate and just like be on your own. And so it really felt right that Maggie, who's so independent, just showing that it's always more interesting to me, not how people change, but like what they cling to. And the only reason why I ever thought about not having them end up dating was just like the part of me that was like, oh, people want them they want it to be open-ended, because I think a lot of audiences crave that. And, but I really wanted to show that, that's the nature of this relationship. And that really, that night that they spent together, like they have to see where that's going to go. And I'm not saying they're going to end up married, but like they can't not date each other just because they meant so much to each other, and they take care of things within each other that need to be taken care of. And they might just be best or bridesmaids at each other's weddings or whatever, but I think they're going to stay close and stay friends forever, even though they're very, very different.
Right. I really like the ending. I thought it was like a really lovely last touch. I was thinking about the fact that she was a senior, but so it's interesting that was intentional. The 2.5 months, I was wondering about that, so that makes more sense. Yes. And then what do you want the audiences to take from the film then? Like, on the whole?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I really want people to watch it and realize that not only am I saying that I really, really believe that people should be looking out for each other, but I really, really, really think that, like, for me, I learned that I need to take care of myself before like having someone else like come into my space. And that was like a thing that it took me 4 years in college to realize, but I wanted to kind of like get it in that one night, like the little droplets of like just him learning from her that it's important to be able to be by yourself. And because I think a lot of people, like, it's really hammered home that look out for each other and look after one another, but and maybe it's a little too simplistic just to like show Alex making his bed and exercising, but I really wanted to show that he's a loving person who, like, that the way he was raised is he always wants to take care of people and like be with people. But what I learned in college is that I just need to like figure out what's going on in my room and how I'm taking care of myself before welcoming someone in, and for that to be healthy.
I think that's a fantastic message. I think especially in college you learn that lesson. I had to learn that lesson. A lot of people I went to school with also probably had to learn that lesson. Some didn't, but most
yeah. Well, yeah, just like learning who you are is separate from other people. And I think some people don't have a problem with that at all, but for those people, I want the message to be like, no, I think we should be be able to depend on people. Like, I think that's important. But for the people like me, I want to say, like, take care of yourself, like, figure out your shit.
One of my favorite moments in the film is the conversation where he admits to his mother that he's essentially been lying about his life in college. And I wanted to know, just like filming wise, was that filmed together to like keep the emotion, or was the Texas stuff filmed separately from the college stuff? Or
Yeah, well, so we had Amy Landecker played my mom, and she's a busy gal, and so it was not filmed. It sounds psycho, but that was actually just me by myself talking to myself. Like, people on set thought I was a crazy person, and I am, but like, it was very just like, all the phone calls with me were just me on the phone. With them, I was actually in the back seat lying down on my back, like talking to them. So those were all like, every time the mom is talking and the sister's talking, they are talking to me, like I'm in the back seat, but which is like a metaphor in itself. But when I was on the phone by myself, it was just me picturing my mom's voice and responding to it, and just like knowing the script so well. So it wasn't like too crazy. But yeah, those were crazy things. So like, I remember the take that I knew, we only did like, I think 2 takes of it. And the second take, I was like, that's all I can do. Cause it was just like so draining, but also it just, it took so much time. And also everyone on set was like, are you okay right now? What is happening? But it was just a very cathartic thing to film. Cause I don't think I'd ever really gone, like I knew I wanted to make a movie about kind of saying goodbye, like almost like a divorce with your parents, because I do think that that's a real thing. And I never really gone there with the feelings. Like, I experienced those things and cried some tears, but like, that was just such a moment. Yeah, filming that was crazy.
it sounds like it was a relatively quick shoot. Were there any other scenes that you felt like you really enjoyed, or something like a more fun like scene to film?
Yeah, well, actually, the fun scenes to watch were always the not fun to film, but but because it was just so hard to like get people, it's just hard to make a movie. But I really loved the library scene at the end, because I had gotten some kind of rash or like an allergic reaction that day, and I had to take Benadryl just because like on screen it would have been like a deformed face. So I took a bunch of Benadryl and it worked, and all the swelling went down, but I was like loopy out of my mind. And like, if you watch it, you can tell my eyes are like bloodshot red, but there was something about the Benadryl that helped me really open up. And that character really needs to, in that scene, is kind of like the most open he ever is with someone right in front of him. And so it really helped. And it was just really fun, because I was like laughing hysterically, and people were like, yeah. And it was also, I think it was close to one of the last days of filming, but just picture me like out of my mind on Benadryl in that scene. So yeah, that was fun.
I feel like I should rewatch the movie now just
You
to
should.
see.
Yes.
For the character, you said it's not really autobiographical. Where do you imagine the character goes after college? Because like, they've got another year after that. And I also wanted to comment on what I really liked about the film and about Alex was that even 2 years later, he's still Alex.
Yes,
it's not a film about fundamentally changing who you are when you get to college.
Yes.
It's just being confident in who you are. So I really appreciated that about the film and really enjoyed that, because often you watch movies about college and it's like, you need to change.
Right.
And like, you get a whole new person at the end of the movie. Whereas I really like that you get a person who just needs to learn to feel comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, thank you. I really wanted that. Like, a whole nother story, but the short film of the movie was based on, I really thought about that for that. Like, and with this, it was hard because it was 2.5 years later. So I did want some change, but I don't think that people really change that much. And I also just, when you're an upperclassman at college, it's just kind of the same thing, but like, it really is just this is like comfort. And I really wanted that from, but to answer your question, where does he end up? I think he has no freaking clue. And, but I think he's someone who, like, just fun question to answer. I think he'd probably go to grad school, Like, I don't know if that makes sense in y'all's head, but he seems to me like someone who's going to end up being a teacher and wants to get his maybe 4 more years. I don't know. But yeah, that's how I see his future going.
That's awesome. I mean, I can totally see it.
Yeah, and also stay, like, probably unhealthily staying close to Maggie, like making all of his decisions based on her, and she's probably going to realize, oh my gosh, this guy is so much. But yeah, I think he's going to make a lot of decisions based on where she is.
And hopefully that'll work itself the way it's meant to work out as well.
The sequel, yes.
Another moment that I also just really enjoyed about like future him was that he was still friends with the freshman roommate. Like they're playing basketball with each other. I really like those like little notes of like continuity in who he is. So I just wanted to mention.
Thank you. Yeah, I stayed close with my friends that I made freshman year. It's just like something about just something. I also just wanted to say, Alex is like this to like a great deal, but everyone is just trying to find a comfort zone, and then when they find that comfort zone, they're staying in that comfort zone. And I think like when he that line when he's like, Maggie is outside of my comfort zone, and he's like, no, she's not. You spent all night with her. Like, I'm trying to say, like, what Alex does is like, here's my family comfort zone. I don't want to go out of that. And when he finally does go out of it, he's like, that's my new comfort zone. And he's not going to leave it. And I think that's what people do with like friends all the time. Like, I think a lot of people are still friends with their freshman year, like people who are like in their dorm, which is crazy.
I'm still friends with some of my friends from freshman year. I like just hung out with one. So like, yeah, definitely. So this is your first feature film. So I wanted to know, like, has this like, are you excited to make more films? Was this like a labor of love? Like, what went into like making this film? It's absolutely stunning though. Like for our first, it doesn't feel like our first feature. It's
thank you. What's the question? What went into it, or what?
Well, like how do you feel about the project after you're like done? And like, I guess, I don't know, your overall impression of like filmmaking now that you've made a feature film.
Yeah, it's a story that feels so close to me, because I made this movie before that, and I thought I was done with the story, but then I like tweeted the link to a filmmaker, and he helped me make Shithouse. And so that, like, I've just been it feels like it's the only thing I've done. So thinking about going on and doing other things feels scary, but also way less scary, I guess. I don't know. It's a really good question. I left feeling pretty like confident in a way. Like I was really pleased with like how it turned out, and I've been blown away by people's response to it, and it makes me want to like make more things and also like help other people make their things, because like I just love movies, and making them is fun too. Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed this film.
Thank you.
It's absolutely really fantastic and really enjoyable, and made me rethink a lot of my college experiences. I was like, oh, maybe I wasn't that weird. It was really cool to just like watch the film and engage with it. But we are running a little bit out of time. So the film does have distribution though. So for everyone's watching, if you don't get to see it at Mill Valley Film Festival, please definitely tell your friends about it. Go see Shithouse.
Yes, go see Shithouse.
Go see Shithouse. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I hope to have you at the festival again one day in person.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Your next film, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.